Right now, you have this billion-dollar staff. I mean, a team of absolute geniuses.
Just waiting around.
Exactly, sitting right there in the lobby of your office. But instead of putting them to work, building your empire or managing your logistics or writing your code, most people are just sort of walking out to the lobby and asking them to fetch a cup of coffee. Or write a polite email. I'm John, your host, and sitting across from me is our resident expert, Nancy.
It is fantastic to be here. I mean, we have a massive, incredibly exciting landscape to cover today.
We really do. So welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. We are looking at just a mountain of expert analyses, technical documentation, and data reports focused squarely on navigating the 2026 AI landscape.
And our mission today is to provide you with the ultimate step-by-step masterclass.
Right. We're going to break down exactly how to integrate these tools to automate your daily administrative grind, minimize your manual effort, and massively amplify your professional productivity. And ultimately, if you got that entrepreneurial itch, launch a highly profitable AI business.
Yeah, and we know exactly who is listening right now. You are someone who stays informed, but, you have zero desire to be paralyzed by information overload.
Oh, the info overload is real.
It's totally real. We are staring down a market with over 500 AI tools, all making these completely wild, utopian promises. So our goal is to act as your filter.
We're going to cut right through the noise, focus on actionable takeaways, and provide clear structure so you know exactly which tool to use for which specific task.
So let's start right at the foundation. Because before you can build a business, you have to understand the actual tools in your toolbox.
Right. And the biggest mistake people make is treating AI like this monolithic magic 8-ball. They find one chatbot, bookmark it, and try to use it for absolutely everything.
From writing poetry to debugging complex software.
Yeah. But the most productive professionals operating right now, they've completely abandoned that approach. They rely on the big three, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. And they use them based on their specific moats.
That concept of a moat is critical here. In traditional business, a moat is your competitive advantage. It's the thing you do so well that no one else can even touch you.
Right.
Well, these frontier models have evolved to have distinct cognitive profiles and structural advantages. They are not interchangeable anymore.
So let's break down those profiles, starting with the big dog in the room, ChatGPT. I've been looking at how it performs under stress testing, and the best way to describe ChatGPT right now is, well, it's the obedient executor.
The obedient executor, yeah. And why does it hold that title?
It entirely comes down to how it processes complex, multi-step constraints. What is happening under the hood right now is this mechanism called chain of thought processing.
Right, which is a huge shift.
Massive. Because in the past, language models simply predicted the next most likely word. They were sort of just flying by the seat of their pants. But with the latest architectural updates, ChatGPT actually pauses.
It stops to think.
Exactly. It generates these hidden scratchpad tokens to reason through the logic of your prompt before it ever outputs a single word to you.
It's essentially talking to itself, planning the route before it starts driving the car.
Yeah, and because of that hidden reasoning step, it has become incredibly, almost ruthlessly rigorous.
There's a perfect test case for this that I was reviewing in the sources, the 12-point hiring rubric.
Oh, I saw that. Break that down.
Okay, so let's say you are an HR director. You paste a candidate's resume into the prompt box, and you give the AI 12 distinct, non-negotiable instructions.
Like really specific stuff.
Very specific. You tell it, check for these 3 specific industry keywords, grade the candidate's tone, format the output in a markdown table, assign a numerical score out of 100 based on this specific mathematical weighting, and so on.
12 completely different rules.
Right. Now, if you feed that exact same 12-point prompt to a lesser model, or even a highly creative model, you will run into this phenomenon known as constraint dropping.
Constraint dropping. That's when it just sort of forgets what you asked for.
Yeah. The model looks at this massive wall of instructions, understands the general vibe of what you want, and just takes a shortcut.
It gets a little too big for its britches.
Exactly. It might give you a beautifully written evaluation, but you'll notice it quietly forgot to use the markdown table. Or it completely skipped the mathematical weighting.
Because it decides it knows what you want better than you do.
Precisely. It suffers from attention drift. But ChatGPT, specifically the newer reasoning models, does not do that. It is rigidly obedient.
It checks every box.
every single one. It anchors its attention to the literal text of your prompt. If you say jump, it doesn't just ask how high, it asks for the precise trajectory, the wind resistance calculations, and the exact landing coordinates.
Okay, so ChatGPT is our obedient project manager. You hand it a complex logistical checklist, and you trust that the behavior you asked for will be executed to the absolute letter.
Yes.
But what happens when we don't want rigid logistics? Like, what if we need nuance and style and actual human-sounding intuition?
That brings us to Claude.
Claude, which is universally regarded right now as the creative and the coder.
Yeah, Claude is the antidote to that robotic, sterile prose that we've all come to associate with AI.
Right, where you read an email and instantly go, a machine definitely wrote this.
Because it lacks varied sentence structure and leans super heavily on specific cliches, but Claude is exceptionally gifted at style matching.
How does that work in practice?
You can feed it, say, 5 pages of your own previous writing and tell it to extract your specific cadence, your vocabulary, your sentence length variation.
And it mimics you.
Its first drafts sound breathtakingly human, but, the creativity is just one half of the equation. We have to talk about its technical superpowers, starting with its context window.
Yeah, the documentation shows Claude boasting a 200,000 token context window.
Yeah.
Let's not just gloss over that number. We should actually define what a token is, because it's a buzzword everyone hears but rarely understands.
It's a vital concept, because an AI doesn't read words the way you and I do. It breaks text down into chunks called tokens. A token could be a whole word, like apple, or it could be a syllable, or just a few letters. Generally speaking, 1,000 tokens is roughly 750 words.
Okay.
So when we say Claude has a 200,000 token context window, we are saying it has a short-term memory capacity of roughly 150,000 words.
Which is basically the length of an epic fantasy novel.
Exactly. You can paste an entire book into the prompt box. You can upload a dozen massive academic research papers or the raw transcripts from an entire week's worth of strategy meetings.
And the engineering marvel here isn't just that you can paste it in, right? It's the recall.
Needle in a haystack recall,
Yeah.
yes. Claude can hold all of that text in its working memory simultaneously without forgetting what was said on page 1 by the time it reaches page 500.
That is staggering. It just fundamentally changes how we interact with large data sets. We aren't really searching anymore, we are synthesizing.
Exactly.
But the second half of Claude's title is the coder. And I want to dig into this because there's a phenomenal case study in our sources about how this completely democratizes software development for non-technical people.
The ability to write code is really where Claude separates itself from the pack. Developers universally agree that Claude's ability to write functional, bug-free code on the very first try is unparalleled.
Right. The case study I was looking at involved a user who needed to bulk export thousands of historical conversations from a customer service platform.
A super tedious task.
Yeah. And they reached out to the platform's official support team. And the response was essentially, sorry, we don't have a button for that. You need to be a software developer to interface with our API.
Which is terrifying for a normal person.
Exactly. This user had never written a line of code in their life. In the past, that is a dead end. You either hire a developer for thousands of dollars or you just give up.
But this user went to Claude. They simply described the problem in plain conversational English. They explained the platform they were using and what data they needed.
And Claude didn't just give them a tutorial.
No, it wrote a completely customized, fully functional script in a programming language called Go. And it told the user exactly how to open their computer's terminal, exactly what to paste, and how to execute it. And it worked on the very first try.
It transforms the user from a consumer of software into a director of software. You don't need to know the syntax of the Go language. You just need to understand your business problem clearly enough to explain it to your lead developer, which is Claude.
Exactly right.
Okay, so we have ChatGPT as our obedient project manager and Claude as our creative director and lead developer. That leaves the third pillar of the big three, Google's Gemini.
Often categorized as the multimodal synthesizer.
Yeah, Gemini has a completely different structural DNA compared to the other two.
To understand its moat, you first have to look at its environment. Gemini is deeply, natively integrated into the Google Workspace ecosystem.
Which is huge if you already work there.
Right. If your professional life lives inside Google Drive, Google Docs, and Gmail, Gemini has an immediate infrastructural advantage. It can see your files without you having to manually upload them.
So you can just ask it, like, what did my accountant say about the Q3 taxes in that email thread last month?
And it just seamlessly queries your inbox, retrieves the data, and answers you.
It's the ultimate executive assistant because it already has the keys to the filing cabinet.
But the multimodal aspect is where the real paradigm shift happens. The numbers on Gemini are absurd. A 1 to 2 million token context window.
That's insane.
But it's not just processing text.
This is the crux of it.
Yeah.
We need to explain what native multimodality actually means. Because when you upload a picture to an older AI model, it usually runs a separate secondary program called OCR.
Optical character recognition.
Yeah, it tries to scan the image, convert any text it sees into words, and then feeds those words to the language model. It's a translation process, and a lot gets lost in translation.
It's clunky. It doesn't actually see the image. It just reads the translated transcript of the image.
Right. But Gemini was built from the ground up to be natively multimodal. It doesn't translate images or audio into text first. It maps the actual pixels of the image, the actual waveforms of the audio, directly into its neural network.
It understands visual and auditory data as fluently as it understands text.
There is a real-world scenario from the data that perfectly illustrates why this matters. Imagine you just wrapped up a grueling, chaotic, hour-long strategy meeting.
We've all been there.
And the artifacts from that meeting are a total mess. You have an hour-long video recording of the Zoom call, you have a dense 20-slide PDF presentation deck that someone walked through, and you have a photograph you snapped on your iPhone of a whiteboard covered in messy, hastily drawn flowcharts and chicken scratch handwriting.
A completely disparate mix of media formats.
Exactly. Only Gemini has the architectural capacity to ingest all three of those distinct media types simultaneously. You literally drag and drop the video file, the PDF, and the JPEG into the prompt box.
And then what do you tell it?
You tell it, cross-reference the spoken audio from this video with the data on these slides and the diagrams on this whiteboard. Summarize the key decisions, identify any discrepancies, and draft a follow-up email to the engineering team assigning their tasks.
And it does it. It synthesizes the visual diagrams on the whiteboard with the spoken context of the video and the hard numbers in the PDF, outputting one cohesive, highly accurate document.
It bridges the gap between different formats of human communication seamlessly.
It really does.
Okay, let's step back for a second because I want to address the elephant in the room. If I am a beginner listening to this, I am probably feeling a rising sense of panic right now.
Oh, for sure. The overwhelm is real.
I have my project manager, my lead developer, and my ultra-observant executive assistant. But how on earth am I supposed to remember to juggle all of these? Like, when I have a task, am I supposed to stop, run a cognitive analysis on whether it requires obedience, creativity, or multimodality, and then log into the correct platform?
It sounds exhausting.
Isn't it infinitely easier to just bookmark one tool, accept that it's slightly flawed, and move on with my day?
That cognitive friction is the #1 reason people fail to adopt AI. They experience choice paralysis, they try to juggle too many tools, get overwhelmed, and revert to their old, manual ways of working.
So how do we fix that?
Overcoming this is not a technology problem, it's a behavioral psychology problem. And the solution is a concept called habit stacking.
Okay, let's unpack habit stacking. How do we actually implement this?
Habit stacking relies on the idea that building a brand new habit from scratch is incredibly difficult because you simply have to remember to do it. The trick is to take the new behavior you want to adopt and stack it on top of a concrete habit that you already do every single day without fail.
So tying the unfamiliar to the familiar.
Exactly. The absolute worst thing you can do today is try to integrate ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini all at once. You will fail. Instead, you pick just one tool for one specific task.
Just one.
Let's say you decide you want to use Claude to draft your daily emails because of its conversational tone. You identify your anchor habit. Let's say drinking your first cup of coffee at 8:00 a.m. while opening your inbox.
The anchor is the coffee in the inbox.
Right. You make a strict rule. For the next 2 weeks while I drink my coffee, I will not manually type a single email reply. I will force myself to use Claude to draft the first pass.
Even if it feels weird at first.
Especially then. At first, it's going to feel clunky. You'll struggle with the prompting, it will take slightly longer, and you'll want to quit. But you force yourself to stick to the stack. After 2 weeks, the neural pathways in your brain adapt. It becomes second nature. Opening Claude becomes as automatic as taking a sip of coffee.
You essentially build the muscle memory.
Exactly. And once that first tool is permanently locked into your routine, and only then do you introduce the next tool. You stack Gemini onto your weekly meeting review. You stack ChatGPT onto your monthly data analysis. You build the suite one brick at a time.
I love that approach. Don't boil the ocean. Start with a puddle. So now we have the big three integrated into our workflow for generating ideas, writing code, and synthesizing media. But we need to shift gears.
What's next?
What happens when we aren't brainstorming? What happens when we need cold, hard facts? If I'm doing deep market research, I cannot afford for my AI to hallucinate or confidently invent a statistic.
This brings us to a crucial architectural distinction in the AI landscape, the difference between reasoning engines and fetching engines.
Okay, break that down.
The big three we just discussed are reasoning engines. They are designed to predict language, to be creative, and to generate novel outputs. But because they are generative, they have a known flaw, hallucinations.
Right, they just make stuff up.
They will sometimes confidently state a falsehood because the statistical probability of the words sounded correct to the model.
Which is terrifying if you are using it for, like, legal research or medical analysis.
Exactly. When you need absolute factual accuracy, you do not use a reasoning engine. You use a fetching engine. And the premier tool for that right now is Perplexity.
Perplexity is fascinating. It's often described as a search scalpel. How does it actually work under the hood to prevent those hallucinations?
It utilizes a mechanism called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Let's compare it to traditional Google search. With Google, you type a query, it gives you 10 blue links, and then it offloads all the manual labor onto you.
You have to click the links, read the articles, extract the data, and synthesize the answer yourself.
And usually dodge a barrage of SEO-optimized recipes and pop-up ads along the way.
Oh, the ads are the worst.
Right. Well, Perplexity automates that manual labor. When you ask it a question, it doesn't just rely on its internal training data. It actually fires out onto the live internet, reads dozens of real-time sources, synthesizes the information, and writes a concise summary.
But how does RAG prevent the hallucination?
The magic of MARAG is that the model is strictly anchored to the text it retrieved. It is instructed, do not make anything up, only summarize what you just fetched.
And the proof is really in the output, because every single claim Perplexity makes is backed up by a verified inline citation. It's like having a meticulous research assistant.
Totally.
If I ask it, what was the exact market share of electric vehicles in Europe in Q3? It doesn't just give me a number, it gives me the number with a little footnote that links directly to the Bloomberg article or the Reuters financial report it pulled it from.
You never have to blindly trust the AI because the chain of custody for the information is completely transparent. You can click the link and verify the fact with your own eyes.
That solves the problem of researching public information on the open web perfectly. But what if my data isn't public?
Ah, proprietary data.
Yeah. What if I am trying to analyze my own company data, internal financial spreadsheets, confidential HR manuals, or private client transcripts? I obviously don't want Perplexity searching the internet for that, and I might not want to dump it into a public reasoning engine.
That specific need birthed one of the most powerful tools currently available, Google's NotebookLM. It operates on the exact same REG mechanism we just discussed, but instead of fetching data from the open internet, it fetches data from a walled garden.
Let's dive into this walled garden concept. How do we build it?
NotebookLM allows you to create an isolated digital environment. You manually upload your own sources. You can drop in up to 50 distinct documents, PDFs, text files, copied and pasted web pages, Google Docs.
Okay, so you feed it.
Once those documents are processed into its internal vector database, NotebookLM becomes an absolute, hyper-focused expert, but only on the data you provided. It completely shuts off its access to outside world knowledge.
So if I upload my competitors' last 3 quarterly investor reports, a leaked internal memo, and all of their public press releases for the last year,
You have just built a custom, highly secure competitor intelligence oracle. You can ask it, based strictly on these documents, what are their main strategic weaknesses regarding their supply chain? NotebookLM will scan only the files you gave it, synthesize the mentions of supply chain issues, and give you an answer, complete with citations pointing exactly to page 14 of the Q2 investor report.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though. If NotebookLM is a walled garden and it's using R-key to prevent hallucinations, does that mean it is completely immune to making factual errors?
That is a brilliant question, and the answer highlights the ultimate limitation of the walled garden. It is not immune to errors, but the nature of the errors changes. It operates on a strict garbage in, garbage out paradigm.
Meaning, it's only as accurate as my own messy notes.
Precisely. If one of the PDFs you uploaded contains a typo or a mathematically incorrect financial projection, NotebookLM has no way of knowing it's wrong. It cannot cross-reference the open internet to fact-check your document against reality.
Right, because it's isolated.
Inside the walled garden, the documents you provide are treated as the absolute infallible truth. If your document says the sky is green, NotebookLM will confidently tell you the sky is green and cite your document as proof. It eliminates external hallucinations, but it cannot correct internal human error.
That makes perfect sense. The boundaries of the garden are absolute. But, we can't talk about NotebookLM without talking about its most mind-bending viral feature, the audio overview.
Oh, the podcast generator. It is genuinely uncanny technology.
It sounds like a gimmick until you actually use it. You take those incredibly dry, dense 40-page legal documents or competitor PDFs, you click one button, and NotebookLM processes the text and generates a highly realistic 10 to 15-minute audio file featuring 2 AI hosts.
And they sound so real.
They don't just read the text like a robotic audiobook. They banter, they interrupt each other, they use analogies, they synthesize the core concepts of your dry documents into an engaging conversational format.
It completely revolutionizes information consumption, particularly for auditory learners. Imagine you have a massive stack of reading to do before a client meeting, but you have a 45-minute commute.
Usually that's just dead time.
But now you just drop the files into NotebookLM, generate the podcast, and listen to a custom-tailored debrief of your own proprietary data while driving to the office.
It turns dead time into hyper-productive time. And speaking of professional productivity, let's tackle the ultimate daily administrative burden, the absolute bane of corporate existence, meeting notes.
The daily grind. We spend half our day in meetings discussing work, and the other half typing up summaries of what we just discussed.
And the current AI solution to this is honestly pretty awkward. We've all experienced it. You jump onto a Zoom call with a high-profile client, you're trying to build rapport, and suddenly a gray box appears on the screen that says, "Note taker 5000 has joined the meeting."
It is the worst. It immediately puts everyone on edge.
It feels like you're being wiretapped. The client suddenly starts heavily filtering what they say.
It completely ruins the vibe. But the technology has evolved past these intrusive bots. There is a tool called Granola AI that elegantly solves this social friction. Granola is entirely unobtrusive. It does not send a creepy, visible bot into the meeting room.
So how does it capture the audio if it's not actually a participant in the Zoom call?
It uses virtual audio drivers. It installs locally on your Mac, and it intercepts the audio routing right at the hardware level. It captures the sound coming out of your speakers, which is the client's voice, and the sound going into your microphone, which is your voice.
Oh, that's clever.
Because it's tapping the audio locally on your machine, it is completely invisible to the other participants. They just see you.
It preserves the natural human connection. And what happens when the meeting ends?
The moment you hang up, Granola has already processed the local audio. It instantly generates a highly polished, speaker-diarized transcript. But it doesn't stop there. It understands the context of the meeting. It extracts the key decisions, pulls out actionable tasks, and can instantly draft personalized follow-up emails for every stakeholder involved.
Let's connect the dots here, because if we extrapolate this workflow, the implications for our daily routine are staggering.
They really are.
If an AI like Granola can invisibly capture and transcribe my meetings, right? And I can then take those transcripts and drop them into my private NotebookLM database to cross-reference with my historical project files. And I can then use Claude's creative coding to automatically draft and format perfectly styled follow-up reports.
The fundamental definition of an administrative task changes entirely. You are no longer the typist. You are the conductor. The manual effort is nearly eliminated, and your professional bandwidth is freed up to do the actual high-level strategic thinking. You move from doing the work to managing the systems that do the work.
Okay, this is a perfect transition point. We've organized our notes, we've automated our meetings, our research is fact-checked, and our workflow is humming. But what if we want to step out of the corporate grind? What if we have an idea for a business or a product, and we want to actually build something to test it?
The biggest barrier for most people is capital.
Exactly. Buying subscriptions for ChatGPT Plus, Claude Pro, Midjourney, and all these premium tools easily hits hundreds of dollars a month.
Which is why we need to explore the zero-cost launchpad. The reality of the 2026 landscape is that for almost every premium, expensive AI tool on the market, there is a phenomenally powerful, free alternative if you know exactly where to look.
This is pure gold for anyone bootstrapping a project. Let's run down the list, starting with the heavy hitter. ChatGPT Plus. It costs $20 a month to get access to OpenAI's frontier model, GPT-4o, and to give it live internet access.
But you do not have to pay OpenAI for that access. You can get the exact same GPT-4o model with real-time web browsing completely for free by using Microsoft Copilot,
Wait, really? The exact same model?
the exact same engine under a different hood. Microsoft is heavily invested in OpenAI, and they use their enterprise weight to offer the model for free to drive ecosystem adoption.
But the key is knowing how to drive it. I was analyzing a workflow on how to extract massive value from Copilot, and it comes down to professional prompt engineering. The amateur goes to Copilot and types, "Write a YouTube script about the history of the internet."
And they get a generic, boring essay.
Right. If you want professional results, you must provide architectural constraints. Professional prompt looks entirely different. You would tell Copilot, act as an expert YouTube strategist. Write a 90-second script about the history of the internet. Structure it for maximum audience retention by using pattern interrupts every 15 seconds. Use short, punchy sentences.
That's already so much better.
But it goes further. You also tell it, additionally, for each of the major scenes in the script, generate a detailed, comma-separated image prompt describing the specific visual aesthetic, lighting, and subject matter, so I can feed those prompts directly into an image generator.
You are forcing the AI to do the job of a writer, a retention strategist, and a creative director all at once.
And that gives us the perfect pivot. We have these highly detailed image prompts from Copilot. But Midjourney, which is widely considered the gold standard for AI image generation, requires a paid subscription.
Wow.
What is the free alternative?
You turn to Leonardo AI. They offer a generous free tier that gives you 150 tokens every single day, which roughly equates to generating 30 high-quality images daily.
That's plenty for a small project.
And the crucial detail here is to make sure you select their Phoenix 1.0 model in the settings. Phoenix uses a highly advanced diffusion architecture that produces incredibly cinematic, photorealistic outputs that easily rival Midjourney's premium tiers.
Okay, so we have the script, we have the images, and what if we need a voiceover to read that Copilot script over those Leonardo images? ElevenLabs is famous for its hyper-realistic voices, but the free tier runs out almost instantly if you're producing content.
The zero-cost solution is TTS Maker. It is an incredibly utilitarian tool. It requires absolutely no account creation, no login, and it offers unlimited text-to-speech generation with a vast library of professional quality voices.
Now, obviously, it might not have the hyper-nuanced emotional size and breadths of the premium ElevenLabs tiers.
True. But for a zero-cost launchpad where your goal is just to validate an idea and get an MVP, a minimum viable product out into the world, it is robust and completely frictionless.
I love this concept. It's like wandering into the supermarket and buying the off-brand grocery items, only to realize they are secretly manufactured in the exact same factory using the exact same ingredients as the luxury brands.
Yeah.
You're getting 95% of the capability for $0.
Exactly.
But we do need to address one massive technical hurdle that has plagued AI creators for years: text on images.
Oh, it is the Achilles heel of diffusion models. If you ask an AI to generate a picture of a coffee shop with a sign that says open daily, it will usually generate a beautiful coffee shop. But the sign will have bizarre alien-looking runes that sort of resemble letters but spell absolute nonsense.
Why does it do that? Like, why is an AI so incredibly smart, but it can't spell a four-letter word?
Because diffusion models don't actually understand language, they understand pixels. When they look at a training image of a stop sign, they don't read the letters STOP. They just learn that red octagons usually have squiggly white pixel patterns in the middle.
Ah, so when you ask for text, it just throws random squiggly white pixels onto the canvas, hoping it looks like writing.
Exactly. It's imitating the look of text without understanding the structure. But there is a breakthrough here.
Yes, accessible for free inside the Gemini ecosystem is a tool called Nano Banana Pro. It has fundamentally bridged the gap between language understanding and pixel generation. It actually comprehends the real-world context of typography.
Which is huge.
You can ask it for product mock-ups, concert posters, or marketing assets with specific text, and it renders the spelling perfectly, matching the font style to the lighting and perspective of the image.
Which is absolutely critical if you are bootstrapping a brand and need to test different product labels without hiring a graphic designer and a photographer.
Okay, so we've generated our copy, our images, and our assets for free. But a business needs a storefront, needs a website. And coding a website takes months of learning. Let's talk about Google AI Studio.
Google AI Studio is arguably the most powerful free developer tool available right now. It completely removes the barrier of syntax. It allows you to build functional, interactive web applications using nothing but natural language.
The technical leap here is astounding. You don't write HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. You just open the prompt interface and describe the functionality you want. Let's say you are hosting a webinar. You type, build a modern dark mode event registration landing page. I need a hero section with a countdown timer. I need 3 pricing tiers, early bird, standard, and VIP, with the VIP tier highlighted in gold. And I need a fully functional form to collect names and emails that links to a payment gateway.
And within seconds, it translates your plain English into a complete working code base. It renders the interface right before your eyes. You can click the buttons, test the form, and instantly deploy it to the web. It is the ultimate bridge from idea to execution.
But I have to push back here, because if we are painting this utopian picture where everything from the code to the imagery is free, why does a multi-billion-dollar AI industry exist? Like, why would anyone ever transition from the zero-cost launchpad to actually paying for premium software?
Because of 2 distinct factors: friction and scale. The free tools are perfect for validation. They are manual. You type a prompt, you copy the text, you paste it into the image generator, you download the image, you upload it to the website. That manual copying and pasting is friction.
It takes time.
As a solo founder testing an idea, you have the time to absorb that friction. But when your business starts growing, that friction becomes a bottleneck.
You literally run out of hours in the day to manually prompt the bots.
Exactly. When you scale, you aren't paying for better AI, you are paying for API access. An API is essentially a digital bridge that allows 2 completely different pieces of software to talk to each other without human intervention. The premium tiers give you API keys, which allow you to automate the entire workflow.
That concept, allowing the software to talk to the software, leads us directly into the most advanced, most lucrative skill set in the market today. We are moving beyond the launchpad and stepping into next-level operations. We need to talk about multi-agent systems.
This is where we cross the threshold from basic AI utilization to true operational leverage. To understand this, we have to look at the evolution of the technology. We started with simple virtual assistants. A VA is a single, isolated bot programmed to do one repetitive task.
Like a bot that just lives in your inbox, reads the subject lines, and routes invoices to a specific folder. It's helpful, but it's narrow.
Right. The evolution of that is technical agent development. We're no longer building isolated bots. We are building a multi-agent system, which is essentially a digital organizational chart.
Define exactly how that org chart works.
Think of a traditional corporate structure. You have a chief of staff or a manager who oversees a team of specialized employees. In a multi-agent system, you create a manager agent. You give this manager a high-level, complex goal. Let's say, execute a comprehensive market analysis on this new competitor.
Okay.
The manager agent doesn't do the work itself. It autonomously breaks that goal down into subtasks, and it delegates those tasks to worker agents.
So the manager agent talks to a researcher agent and says, go scrape the competitor's website.
Yes. And once the researcher agent brings the data back, the manager agent reviews it and hands it off to a data analyst agent to identify pricing trends. Then it hands the trends to a copywriter agent to draft an executive summary. The agents communicate with each other, correct each other's errors, and compile the final report. You, the human, just review the final output.
It's mind-blowing. Instead of me prompting the AI is prompting the AI. But how do we actually wire these agents together? We aren't all software engineers.
You build these systems using visual automation platforms. The landscape is currently dominated by 2 major players, Zapier and N8N.
Zapier is the household name. Most people have at least heard of it.
Zapier is the foundational S-tier tool for beginners. It connects over 6,000 different applications: Gmail, Slack, Salesforce, ChatGPT. It features a beautifully intuitive drag-and-drop interface. If this happens in app A, do this in app B. It requires 0 coding knowledge and is incredibly reliable.
Well, there's a catch, right?
However, it can become very expensive as your volume scales, and it has limitations on highly complex branching logic.
Which is where NN enters the picture, the power users tool.
Yes. N8N is an open source platform. If you have the technical chops, you can host it on your own server for free, completely bypassing subscription fees. It utilizes a visual node-based builder that allows for infinitely complex, multi-layered automated workflows.
Let's break down that terminology. What exactly is a node?
Imagine a massive digital flowchart on your screen. Each box on that flowchart is a node. A node represents a single, specific action or connection. One node might be receive an email. A line connects it to the next node, which might be send email text to Claude. A line connects that to a node saying extract the client's name.
There is a truly remarkable case study about the power of NA that perfectly illustrates this. It involves a couple, Richard and Kathleen Lowe.
This is a perfect example of solving a real-world bottleneck with automation. They were web designers who relocated to Portugal. When you move to Portugal, navigating the bureaucracy is notoriously difficult. Specifically, obtaining a Portuguese tax ID, known as a NIF, requires navigating complex legal forms and obtaining power of attorney signatures. They realized thousands of other expats were struggling with this exact same pain point.
So they decided to build a service to facilitate it. But instead of manually typing up forms all day, they built an automated engine.
They used N8N to construct an 18-node workflow. Let's visualize how complex this is. A user goes to their website and fills out a simple form with their basic details. That form submission triggers node number 1.
Okay, the trigger.
The workflow automatically routes that data to an AI agent, which formats the information. It then connects to the Stripe API node to process the client's payment securely. Once payment is verified, the data flows to a document generation node, which dynamically fills out the complex Portuguese power of attorney PDFs.
And then it delivers it.
It then writes to an email node, which drafts a personalized message and delivers the final, legally formatted documents directly to the client's inbox.
18 distinct steps, seamlessly integrated, completely invisible to the user.
By automating the entire back-end logistical nightmare, they transformed a tedious administrative side project into a highly profitable, scalable relocation business. The system runs 24/7, processing clients while they sleep, with almost zero manual ongoing effort required from them.
And we're seeing this exact concept applied locally to desktops as well. The documentation details a tool called Claude Cowork.
Yes, Claude Cowork moves the automation from the cloud directly onto your local machine. It can parse your screen and operate your browser.
The specific workflow detailed was for a content creator. Every single morning at 10:00 a.m., without the user lifting a finger, Claude Cowork wakes up. It opens the web browser, navigates to X, formerly Twitter, and scrapes the trending topics. It analyzes the viral data, identifies a pattern, automatically writes 3 viral hooks based on that pattern, drafts the full scripts, and saves them into a Google Doc for the user to review when they wake up. It literally replaces the need for a junior research assistant.
It is local, multi-agent automation at its finest.
Okay, I have to step in and play the skeptic again. This all sounds deeply futuristic and incredibly efficient. But as a human being who has dealt with technology breaking, building an 18-node N workflow, or a system where a manager agent is blindly trusting a copywriter agent, it sounds terrifyingly fragile. If one single sub-agent hallucinates or misinterprets a command, doesn't the entire chain catastrophically break?
You have identified the absolute biggest risk of multi-agent architecture: system fragility. If a creative model hallucinates data in node 3, that poisoned data cascades through nodes 4 through 18, and you deliver a disastrously wrong document to a client.
So how do the professionals prevent that?
This brings us full circle to our very first discussion about the big 3, and why understanding their unique moats is paramount. You engineer reliability into the system by choosing the correct model for each specific node.
I see. You don't use Claude to handle the logical routing.
Exactly. You love Claude for its creativity, but you do not want creativity when routing JSON data payloads or handling API structures. For the critical structural nodes that hold the workflow together, you deploy ChatGPT. You use the obedient executor. Because ChatGPT rigidly adheres to constraints, you can trust that it will predictably parse the data and follow the rules of the workflow every single time. You build the skeleton with ChatGPT for reliability, and you use Claude for the flesh and paint where creativity is needed.
You put the rigid project manager in charge of the logistics, and you put the creative director in charge of the copy. It perfectly highlights why you need the entire suite. So we have the automated infrastructure, we have our zero-cost tools to build the assets, we are ready. But the ultimate question remains, what do we actually build? Which brings us to the money game. Let's analyze the profitability, the landscape, and rank the AI business models for 2026.
The data provides a phenomenal, highly pragmatic tier list of AI business models, ranking them from S tier, the absolute peak opportunities, all the way down to F tier traps. And it's crucial to understand the 3 specific metrics used to evaluate these models.
Let's define the criteria.
First is profitability. Simply put, is this a painkiller or a vitamin? Does it solve a problem so painful that real businesses will part with substantial cash to fix it? Second is competition. Is the market already hyper-saturated with thousands of people offering the exact same service? And third, and most importantly, is longevity. Is this business model structurally sound, or is it just a temporary gimmick that will be entirely wiped out by the next major software update from OpenAI or Google?
Let's start at the absolute bottom. The ideas that our listeners need to avoid at all costs. What is the definitive F-tier business model?
Faceless YouTube channels. If you spend any time on social media, you are bombarded by gurus selling courses on this. The pitch sounds intoxicatingly easy. Use an AI scriptwriter, an AI voiceover tool, and an AI avatar generator to pump out dozens of mass-produced generic videos a wint. You don't have to show your face, you do no original research, and you sit back and collect ad revenue.
It sounds like a money printer. Why is it an F-tier trap?
It is precisely because it is so easy that it is worthless. The barrier to entry is zero, meaning the competition is functionally infinite. Millions of these channels are flooding the platform, but the death blow is longevity. The YouTube algorithm is highly sophisticated, and its core directive is user retention.
It wants humans to watch for as long as possible.
And humans intuitively recognize and reject low-effort, mass-produced digital pollution. They click away after 5 seconds. The algorithm sees that massive drop-off in retention and actively suppresses the content. Furthermore, these channels build zero brand loyalty and zero audience trust. If YouTube changes its monetization policy tomorrow to demonetize AI voices, which they frequently do, your entire business evaporates overnight. It is a house of cards.
Also sitting in the F-tier are AI trading bots.
Selling software that promises to use AI to predict the stock market or crypto fluctuations. Let's apply basic logic here. If an engineer actually developed an AI model that could consistently, reliably beat the market and generate a 20% return, they would not be selling access to it on Twitter for $97 a month. They would quietly run a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. Selling these bots is essentially selling a digital lottery ticket. The profitability relies on gullibility.
Okay, we avoid the F-tier. Let's move up the ladder to the B-tier. These are the models that are technically functional and can make you money right now, but they have serious structural flaws holding them back. The analysis places standard virtual assistants, brand design, and AI content repurposing firmly in the B-tier. Let's use content repurposing as the case study.
Content repurposing involves taking a long-form piece of content, like a 2-hour podcast interview, and using AI tools to automatically slice it up into 15-second YouTube Shorts, TikToks, and Twitter threads. Is it profitable today? Yes. Creators absolutely hate doing this manual editing, and they will pay you to do it for them.
So why isn't it an S-tier business?
Because the longevity metric is completely broken. You are racing against the frontier models and the platforms themselves. Native integration is the enemy of the B-tier business. Right now, YouTube is actively testing features where a creator can just click a button on their own dashboard that says, automatically generate shorts from this video.
The platform itself is absorbing the feature. It's like selling ice in the winter. It might make a few bucks right now while people are confused, but eventually the environment is going to do the exact same job for free, automatically.
Yeah, exactly. When the software does the job natively, out of the box, the entire service industry built around that task collapses. The same logic applies to standard virtual assistant agencies. If the next iteration of the Apple iPhone has a natively integrated AI agent that can perfectly schedule your meetings, read your emails, and book your flights in the background, why would you pay a human thousands of dollars a month to use an AI to do the exact same thing? The human intermediary becomes redundant.
Which brings us to the promised land, the S-tier. The absolute winners for the 2026 landscape. The businesses that are selling heaters, not ice. The demand here is structural, enduring, and incredibly lucrative. What are the champions?
The S-tier is dominated by 4 models: AI voice agents, managed AI cybersecurity, AI lead generation, and elite AI consulting. Let's break down voice agents first because the unit economics are staggering.
We aren't talking about the robotic press 1 for sales phone menus from 2010.
No, we are talking about hyper-realistic, latency-free AI voice models that sound indistinguishable from a human being. They pause, they use filler words like and like, ooh, and they can handle complex branching conversations.
Why is this so highly profitable?
Look at local businesses. Plumbers, HVAC technicians, dentists, law firms. They are phenomenal at their actual trades, but they are notoriously terrible at front desk administration. They miss phone calls constantly because they're busy on a job site or with a patient. In local business, a missed call is a lost customer. They just call the next plumber on Google.
It's directly lost revenue.
You step in and build them a custom AI voice agent. This agent answers the phone on the first ring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It politely qualifies the caller's problem, answers FAQ about pricing, and connects directly to the business owner's CRM to actually book the appointment onto their calendar. The profitability is S-tier because your service is directly measurably tied to generating new revenue for the client. They aren't paying for an AI toy, they are paying for a flawless receptionist that never sleeps.
That is a true painkiller. And managed AI cybersecurity, that sounds heavily geared toward enterprise.
It is, and the longevity is absolute. As AI capabilities democratize, they also empower bad actors. Hackers are using AI to launch incredibly sophisticated, hyper-personalized phishing attacks. They are using ElevenLabs to clone the voices of CEOs and calling finance departments to authorize fraudulent wire transfers.
The threat vectors are multiplying exponentially.
Corporate executives are terrified. If you build a service that uses defensive AI to monitor network traffic for anomalies, or you run simulated AI phishing attacks to train and harden their employees against social engineering, you are securing massive multi-year enterprise contracts. The threat landscape is only going to expand, meaning your longevity is guaranteed.
Let's talk about AI consulting, because the documentation emphasizes evaluating these opportunities using revenue growth metrics. How does consulting snowball into massive profitability?
The beauty of consulting is the land and expand model. You are not just selling a one-off product. You start by selling an audit. You approach a mid-sized logistics company and charge them a relatively small fee, say $5,000, to embed yourself in their company for a week and analyze their daily workflows.
You're just looking for the bottlenecks.
Right. And because most companies are horribly inefficient, you easily find a dozen areas where multi-agent systems could replace massive manual data entry. You deliver the report showing them exactly how they are bleeding money.
And the brilliant part is they don't know how to build the end-to-end workflows to fix it.
Exactly. So you parlay that initial $5,000 audit into a $50,000 implementation contract to actually build the automated systems you just recommended. You become their indispensable architectural partner. The revenue growth potential from a single client is practically uncapped as they continually need you to update and manage their AI infrastructure.
Before we move on to how to actually launch these businesses, I cannot ignore a concept in the documentation that was ranked as an A-tier opportunity, because it sounds like science fiction. The AI to AI marketplace.
It is the most speculative, but arguably the most profound shift we are tracking. We are currently operating in a B2B economy, business to business, human beings negotiating with human beings. But the infrastructure is being laid right now for a bot-to-bot economy.
Break down how a bot-to-bot transaction actually works.
Imagine that manager agent we talked about earlier. It is trying to execute a complex market analysis, but it realizes it needs a highly specific, restricted data set that it doesn't currently possess. Instead of pausing the workflow and pinging the human to go buy the data, the manager agent autonomously logs into an AI to AI marketplace. It finds another AI agent built by a different company entirely that specializes in data scraping. The two agents negotiate a price in milliseconds. Your agent pays the scraping agent via a microtransaction, receives the data, and completes the task.
The AI is engaging in autonomous commerce. And this isn't just theory, is it?
Not at all. Stripe, one of the largest payment processors on Earth, recently released API protocols specifically designed to allow AI agents to hold digital wallets, hold funds, and execute payments to other agents programmatically. The financial rails are already live.
But the craziest part is when the AI needs something done in the physical world. The documentation mentions a platform called rentahuman.ai.
This flips the entire dynamic of the labor market. Currently, humans hire AI to do tasks. On Rent, a human.ai, over 700,000 human workers have registered to complete microtasks that are assigned, managed, and paid out by AI agents.
Let me wrap my head around this. So the AI manager is executing a workflow. It hits a roadblock, say, it needs someone to physically call a local government office that doesn't have a website, or it needs a subjective human opinion on a design aesthetic. It goes to this platform, posts a job listing, hires a human being, reviews the human's work, and processes their payment.
Yes. The AI is outsourcing the manual, non-automatable friction to the human workforce.
That is wild. The algorithm is literally becoming the middle manager. Okay, we have completely mapped the landscape. We know the tools, we know the automations, we know exactly what an S-tier business model looks like. The final most important question for the listener is, how do I actually get started today? How do I launch one of these S-tier ideas without taking out a massive loan, writing thousands of lines of code in my basement, and risking everything?
This brings us to the culmination of everything we've discussed. Phase 6, the 5-step blueprint to launching your AI business. This is a rigorous, sequential, highly actionable process, and its primary goal is radical risk reduction. It completely flips traditional startup advice on its head.
Traditional advice is hide in your basement, build the perfect app for 6 months, launch it, and pray people care.
Which is how you waste 6 months and thousands of dollars. The 5-step blueprint operates entirely differently. Step 1 is validate. You do not build the technology first. I repeat, do not build the complex multi-agent NAN workflow.
So what do you build?
A facade. You use Google AI Studio or a no-code visual builder like Lovable to spin up a clean professional landing page in about an hour. You focus on one highly specific use case. Let's say you are building an AI chief of staff specifically designed to automate follow-ups for real estate agents. Your landing page simply explains the painkiller. Save 15 hours a week on client follow-up.
Okay, the page is live. How do you validate it without spending thousands on Facebook ads?
You leverage your existing professional network, but you use a very specific psychological framing. You text your contacts, but you do not ask them, hey, do you want to buy my new AI tool?
Right, because if you ask directly, people feel pressured that they don't want to hurt your feelings, so they say, oh, wow, that sounds cool, maybe later, which is useless data.
Exactly. The blueprint specifies the indirect approach. You text them, hey, I'm working on an AI system that entirely automates client follow-ups for real estate agents. Do you know anyone who might desperately need this right now?
Do you know anyone? It completely removes the social pressure.
Yeah.
If the problem you are solving isn't real, they will just say, no, I don't know anyone. But if you have actually identified a bleeding neck problem,
They will either immediately refer you to a colleague who is drowning in admin, or very often they will reply, actually, I need that. Tell me more. You have now generated genuine organic interest, which takes you immediately to step 2, pre-sell.
now this is the step that absolutely terrifies most founders because you still haven't built the automated system.
No, you have a landing page and an idea, but you must force the market to prove its intent. You email the people who showed interest and offer them an exclusive early adopter program at a discounted rate. You send them a Stripe payment link.
You ask for the money before the code is written.
Yes, because verbal interest is cheap. People will say they love an idea all day long, but the only metric of validation that matters is a processed credit card. If they will not pay for the solution to this problem today, they will absolutely not pay for it 3 months from now when you finally finish coding it. You have to prove that your offer is a painkiller, not a vitamin.
Okay, let's play this out. You send the link. Miraculously, someone pays you $500 for the first month of service. The dopamine hits. But then reality sets in. You have a paying client, and you have absolutely zero automated infrastructure built to deliver the service. Panic time.
Not at all. You transition into step 3. Launch manually. This is known in the startup world as the concierge phase, or the Wizard of Oz test. Behind the curtain, there is no magical automated machine. It's just you pulling the levers.
So how do you fulfill the contract?
You rely on the foundations we built in phase 1. You use the big 3. You personally act as the manager agent. Every morning, you log into the client's CRM. You manually copy the data. You paste it into Claude to write the perfectly styled follow-up email. You manually paste the email back into their system and send it. You use Perplexity to do the manual research.
This sounds incredibly unscalable. It's the exact opposite of automated leverage.
It is entirely unscalable, and that is the point. You are doing the unscalable work to intimately learn the exact friction points of the process. You are proving that the underlying logic of the workflow actually delivers value to the client.
This is brilliant. I remember earlier I was expressing anxiety about building an 18-node workflow and having it catastrophically break. The beauty of the concierge phase is that you completely de-risk the engineering. You don't even touch the complex automation until you already have a paying client, revenue in the bank, and a completely proven manual workflow. You literally sold the result of the AI before you wired the AI together.
Exactly. Once you have proven the manual process works and the client is thrilled, you move to step 4. Build audience and partnerships. You don't need to become an influencer. You simply find people who already possess the audience that needs your solution.
Industry newsletters, niche YouTube channels, B2B podcasts.
Right. You approach them and offer a lucrative affiliate partnership. You give them a custom link to your landing page and offer them 30% of the recurring revenue for any client they bring in. You let other people do the heavy lifting of driving traffic.
And finally, when the traffic is flowing and the manual work becomes too overwhelming to handle. Step 5. Productize.
This is the finish line. You take the revenue you have already generated from the pre-sales and the manual concierge service and you reinvest it. Now and only now do you open up N8N. Now you build out the true multi-agent systems, the API connections, and the actual automated tech infrastructure to replace yourself. You productize the service last, not first.
It's a flawless roadmap. Validate the pain. Pre-sell the result. Fulfill manually. Partner for traffic. Productize with automation. So let's pull all the threads together and summarize this massive deep dive into the 2026 AI ecosystem.
We covered a tremendous amount of ground. The foundational step is mastering the big three based on their moats. Rely on ChatGPT when you need strict obedience to complex constraints. Turn to Claude when you need human-sounding creativity and flawless coding. And utilize Gemini when you need to synthesize deeply integrated multimodal environments.
Don't boil the ocean. Use habit stacking to integrate them into your morning coffee routine. Understand the architectural difference between reasoning engines and fetching engines. Use Perplexity for transparent, hallucination-free research on the open web, and build a walled garden in NotebookLM to interrogate your own proprietary data.
Completely eliminate your administrative friction. Use unobtrusive tools like Granola to capture meetings natively, freeing yourself to manage the systems rather than doing the manual typing.
If you are bootstrapping, take full advantage of the zero-cost launchpad. Use Microsoft Copilot for free GPT-4 access, Leonardo AI for cinematic images, and Nano Banana Pro to finally solve the problem of generating legible text on your mockups. Use Google AI Studio to build your interfaces with nothing but natural language.
When you are ready to scale, transition from simple virtual assistants to true technical agent development. Design multi-agent systems where a manager agent delegates to specialized workers. Use platforms like N8N to build visually automated, complex workflows, always remembering to engineer reliability by using rigid models for the logical routing nodes.
And when it's time to play the money game, ignore the digital pollution of the F tier. Aim strictly for S-tier models with massive longevity AI voice agents, managed cybersecurity, and scalable AI consulting. And most importantly, follow the 5-step blueprint. Validate the pain, secure the pre-sale, and deliver the concierge service before you ever write a single line of code.
The tools are undeniably powerful, but as we've seen today, it is the strategic implementation that actually generates wealth and reclaims your time.
We have dissected an unbelievable amount of technology today. But before we sign off, leave us with one final overarching thought to chew on.
We opened this deep dive with an analogy, comparing AI to a billion-dollar staff waiting in your lobby. We spent this time breaking down exactly how to put them to work, how to architect your multi-agent systems, and how to scale a business. But as we look toward 2026 and we observe the rise of bot-to-bot commerce, Stripe agent wallets, and platforms where AI autonomously hires human freelancers, I want you to ask yourself a critical, slightly uncomfortable question about the systems you're setting up today. Are you purposefully, strategically building a business where you remain the owner, the director, and the architect of the AI? Or by just chasing random, isolated automations without a master plan, are you accidentally building a workflow where eventually an AI will become your manager?
Wow, that is something to sit with. Are you building your empire or are you building your future manager? Thank you so much for joining us on this massive exploration. Don't try to change your entire life overnight. Pick just one tool today, tie it to a habit you already have, and start putting that billion-dollar staff to work. We'll catch you on the next one.